Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. There's this really big disconnect and I suppose dissonance happening in the community at the moment, where some are saying that it's the most diverse meta that we've ever had, and then some others say, lol, it's just goats, whatever. And kind of the same thing is happening in the Overwatch League. A lot of people going, oh, Torbjorn's been used, Symetra's been played. All of these weird strategies for heroes like Wrecking Ball and Bastion now coming into effect. But also, 70% of it is also just goats comp. We now have some stats on which heroes were picked. Some of these won't surprise you, but I did want to focus more on the heroes that weren't played a lot as opposed to Lucio's 90% pick rate, So in this video we're going to highlight heroes that are doing better than we thought, heroes that are doing a lot worse, and heroes that really need to be looked at because their pick rate is just down at the bottom. Every hero in the game was played, which on the face of it does look pretty good news. But out of 15 hours of Overwatch League Week 1 gameplay, some of these heroes were played for less than 2 minutes. Which is pretty bad. But from me looking through every single game at a glance at least, and also this Reddit thread from Lucky Tiger, we could take a look at what heroes were used when, and like I said, Torbjorn and Symmetra got used in these games. Granted, it was for a round of Ilios well with Torbjorn, and like a third of an attack for Gladiators on King's Row, they got used in legitimate strategies. So we'll highlight the heroes that actually did worse than them in time played. Torbjorn was played for about 3.5 minutes in total of the 15 hours played in Overwatch League. Symetra for around 2, but there were 2 heroes that did worse than them in playtime, one of which is no surprise, that's Doomfist, and even when he was used, it was used as a last-ditch attempt to touch a point, or awkwardly by London Spitfire here with Birdring on the Doomfist, but as you can see from the gameplay, he doesn't do anything, like he's just sort of stood on the high ground, and then when he does try and go in for an attack, he dies, and wastes a lot of time. He was played for about 1.5 minutes in total, most of which come in from this gameplay that I'm showing you, so Doomfist, bar none, is in the worst state of the game in comparison to other DPS heroes. He was nerfed to the ground by Blizzard, so it's not really a surprise that Doomfist is being played the least out of all of the different heroes. However, another hero that only had 1.5 minutes playtime was Soldier 76, which is quite surprising. When it comes to other DPS hit scan in the game, McCree is doing okay, was played for 18 minutes in total, whereas Ashe was played for about 6 minutes, which isn't an awful lot for a new hero. But sort of getting back on track, McCree was played a good amount, more than Reaper, less than Hanzo, but around a sort of vague area of 1 to 2%. Was used in a lot of areas where he's typically very good, Ilios well for example by some of the teams, but you did see some teams just running goats instead. Ashe was used a little bit in double sniper, but predominantly that was going to be Widowmaker and Hanzo. Widowmaker especially was played over an hour, so 8.2% pick rate, Hanzo around half of that. So even the heroes that do a lot better than Soldier in some cases, where you'd pick Ashe over Soldier and McCree over Soldier, those heroes still aren't being played a lot. So Soldier really needs looking at. He is a hero that is quite a lot of fun, but doesn't bring enough to the table, it seems, to viably be picked. This meta is very much that for a lot of DPS heroes, but it's still quite surprising that Soldier is right at the bottom, with only Doomfist playing worse. So you have Doomfist at the bottom, then Soldier 76, Symetra of course, as we highlighted, we know exactly when she was used, wouldn't be picked at all if it wasn't for Shuffle playing him on King's Row, that's true, and it's the same for Torbjorn with Defran. May also didn't get played an awful lot, but there are 2 other heroes that I wanted to highlight that are doing a lot worse than expected. Okay, maybe one of them isn't. Roadhog is certainly down on this list, played less than 10 minutes in total, but Genji is also down there with a significant drop. It's fairly easy to understand that because Brigitte's in the game, dive heroes would be a lot worse, but Tracer does have a pretty good pick rate too, alongside Widowmaker and Ana. So she is one of the sort of top performing DPS heroes realistically in this meta, but Genji is just down and out again. There's so many heroes that are down here, some of which you kind of expect, Torbjorn and Symmetra, and Bastion to an extent, but the worst 10 heroes with pick rate, good from best to worst, are Bastion, Roadhog, Genji, Junkrat, Ashe, Torbjorn, Mei, Symetra, Soldier 76, and Doomfist. The top 10 heroes on pick rate are Lucio, Zenyatta, D.Va, Brigitte, Zarya, Reinhardt, Sombra, Winston, Wrecking Ball, Ana. It's nice to see that Wrecking Ball and Ana are making good progress. I would say, support-wise, all of them have been used quite a lot. The worst performing support in the game currently for the Overwatch League was Moira, and she was almost played for an hour out of 15, so that's pretty good to be honest. She was used a lot in Goats Comp Mind, but surprisingly stuff like Mercy's up there, Ana, and of course Lucio, Zenyatta, Brigitte are of course the most popular spots in a game of Goats Comp. So is the meta really that diverse? Not really. It's fair to say that Goats Comp is certainly on top, with Washington Justice basically only playing that in their lineup so far. I will link this Reddit thread in the description below. It's quite cool because it boils down exactly what teams played, and who played what, for how long, that kind of thing. But like I say in all of these videos, this is purely to do with the pro scene. And when we do talk about the meta, there are of course a lot of people that say, well, I'm in gold, none of this stuff for the pros affect me, and that is exactly right, it doesn't. Granted, there is elements of trickle down mechanics, but just because the pros are playing goats doesn't necessarily mean that we need to. Even in Diamond Master, I don't have a lot of games that's playing goats. But this is how disconnected the meta is and how difficult it is for Blizzard to nail this one down, because the meta is quite diverse at lower tiers. It's only in the pro scene where it becomes one-tricking goats essentially. But I do think the elements of tank comp do belong in the game, and it would be nice to see teams in the Overwatch League being predominantly good playing tanks. Like Paris Eternal, their goats was really good. Not saying that their dive or anything else wouldn't be, but much like in football or soccer, you have defensive orientated teams, you have very attacking minded teams, Barcelona, Arsenal for example, but then you have teams like Stoke in football where they're just known for being big and burly, and instead of asking teams if they can play Monday night on a cold winter evening in Stoke, can these teams play against Paris on Rialto on the final day of Overwatch League? You get the point. Some teams are just going to be really good at playing goats, some more than others. But it sucks to just see this composition being used so much. I hope more changes come in. It's hard to say what. I don't think the problem is even Brigitte anymore. I think it relies on just stuff like Lucio and tanks, and I don't know. It's getting really frustrating from a content creator perspective to keep seeing this composition, but it is nice to see that some other heroes are being played. Do I expect Symetra and Torbjorn to be played just as much as they were last week? No. I in fact think that their play rate is going to be about 0%. But who knows really? The first week of the Overwatch League, regardless of the compositions that we saw, was actually still pretty good, some pretty close games, and was still a lot of fun to just watch and spectate. But as somebody that wants to break down and analyse some of the stuff in these games, other than, you know, crazy strategies with the Symetra and the Torbjorn, I don't think there was too much to talk about. I hope you enjoyed this video, just a quick breakdown of the best and worst heroes in the game. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.